The 70s was definitely a different time when it came to comedy movies, but with all that aside, some of the funniest movies ever were from this very decade. Some wacky, some zany, some 70s comedies may not have travelled through the decades well, but some are just stone cold classics. Before we count down our top 10, here is the top 10 highest grossing comedy films, and each one for each year of the 70s. So, starting in 1970, the number one highest grossing comedy with $81.6 million worldwide was MASH. In 1971, with $17.8 million worldwide, was Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Because she's a witch. That's the sort of thing witches do.
In 1972, with $66 million worldwide, What's Up, Doc?
Listen, what do you think I am? A piece of ripe fruit you can squeeze the juice out of and cast aside?
In 1973, with $257 million worldwide, The Sting.
You owe me 15 grand, pal.
In 1974, with $119.6 million worldwide, Blazing Saddles.
It is my privilege to extend to you a laurel and hearty handshake.
In 1975, with $115 million worldwide, The Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Faithful hand in hand.
In 1976, with $75 million worldwide, The Pink Panther Strikes Again.
You have received a burn on the head.
In 1977, with $300 million worldwide, Smokey and the Bandit.
Nah, I got that son bitch, and I got him with his fly open.
In 1978, with $141.6 million worldwide, Animal House.
You still want to show me your cucumber?
Should ding that one. And in 1979, with $100 million worldwide, we have The Jerk. Oh, there you go. I've completely balls that one up there. Oh, but we'll do that again.
He hates these cans.
He hates these cans indeed. So yes, after last week doing the 70s number one albums, or 70s albums, we are now doing 70s comedy, and I'm glad to have back the lovely Crystal Tophead. Wonderful, love to see you again.
You too, Pav.
We've just got all the negativity out before we press record, didn't we, about what a shit show January has been. So it's nice to go back, I was going to say, to a simpler time. It was obviously, as a caveat for the 70s, it was a different time when it came to comedy. The sort of movies that probably you can never make today.
No.
But how did you find making your top 10? Because I started realizing that there was a load of movies that I haven't seen for a long time, but I absolutely love.
It was interesting for me because going back and rewatching some of these, I realized that the tone of comedy in the 70s is very different than the tone of comedies in any other decade before or after. It's a much more cynical, kind of biting humor in a lot of ways than you see in a lot of the other decades. So that was surprising to me to go back and realize that.
I think there was no such thing as political correctness in the 70s, was there? I mean, even you can see even the 80s and 90s probably not. It started more as the new century sort of came up with wokeness and all of that kind of stuff. But we're not. I mean, look. We've done this before when we talked about sort of 70s and 80s TV. You kind of see it for what it is. And it's best not to look at it through the prism of today because it was a completely different time. But I noticed that there was at least 2 or 3 films that I've found I've laughed more than anything at some of these movies. And it wasn't because of the political correctness, it was, or the incorrectness, if you like. It was because they were really, really funny movies and the sort of things that I grew up sort of watching and not being allowed to watch certain movies. And, it's a very strange decade, the 70s, because I was quite young in the 70s. So you saw things that you probably shouldn't have seen.
Right.
Or it was things that people were talking about or kids were talking about at the playground at school that then became like these myths and legends.
Right. It's like, and you didn't have the home video that you had. So there was like, ooh, I wonder if it's as good as they're talking about because I have no way of knowing.
Exactly. I was just trying to think now, is Porky's 70s or 80s?
80s. It was like 1980 or 81.
Right. I was going to say it must be like late 70s or really early 80s because that was one of the movies at school that was like a rite of passage. You were looked at differently if you'd seen Porky's.
Right.
You know? So I would have been about, say, when that came out, I was 11, 12 years old. So I was just kind of understanding what ladies' parts were all about and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But then like the cool kids were the kids that had got hold of their dad's videos and watched Porky's, and they were telling us all these stories about, you see ladies' bits in this movie, and we're going, oh God, dear. And you kind of think, no, that can't be true. They can't have things like that.
No, they wouldn't show that.
Of course they wouldn't show that. But then it became that sort of thing that if you got to, and then somebody else would come to school the next day and go, I've seen Porky's. And you go, oh my God, you're my hero. So it's really strange and again, there's some of the movies in that top 10 facts that I talked about.
Yeah.
I hate to say I've never seen The Sting.
Oh, such a good movie.
And I've got to watch it. Because I've been looking at clips while I've been doing sort of research and stuff for this. And I go, why have I never seen? I love Paul Newman. I love Robert Redford, especially them together. Robert Shaw's in it as well. Mm-hmm. How have I never seen it? And What's Up Doc as well. I've never seen that with Barbra Streisand.
I've never seen What's Up Doc either, just because I've never been a Streisand fan.
Right. Okay. What is it about her? Because she seems to be very people either really love her or just don't like her at all. What's the reason?
I just get this vibe off of her that she feels so superior. And it's like there are some people, when you see them acting, you just see them. They're the same person in every role, even the role's supposed to be different.
Right.
And she's one of those people that I feel like she's always just Barbra Streisand, and she just bugs me.
Okay.
I know my Jewish husband is going to go apoplectic, but she just really annoys me.
So she's a real January kind of person for you.
Yes, that's a fantastic. We are going to make January person happen from now on.
I think that could be a thing. Right, before we actually get into it, we need to do this.
Lisa's challenge.
What the fuck are you saying?
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, Crystal, how many do you think we're going to have the same? How many duplicates in our top 10?
I'm going to go with 3.
Ooh, okay. Okay. See, now I think we're going to have 1, 2, 3. I'm going to say 5. I think we're going to have half the same.
Okay, challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. We'll see about that. And before we actually get into this, I would like to say thank you very much to Chris Arcourt as well, who was very kindly sent us a coffee donation, which if you look on our show notes, you can see a way of doing that. Thank you, Chris. That meant so much to us. It was such a sweet message you sent on there as well. So we really, really appreciate it and thought I'd give you a shout out for that. So thank you so much.
That's awesome.
Bless everybody. Bless everybody. It's February now. We're all feeling a lot more happier and a lot more like, the world's not quite as gone to shit as it probably could do, although it's still early. Just tonight it's early because who knows what can happen tomorrow. Okay, right. Crystal, give us your number 10, please.
My number 10 is Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right.
Okay. I love this movie. I saw it. You're talking about an age where you probably shouldn't have seen it. I saw it at an age where I probably shouldn't have seen it. But it's so weird and absurd and fabulous, and it's not your traditional like you look at it and say it's a comedy, but it's funny. Yeah. I mean, you can't watch the movie and not realize how funny and absurd it is. And if you play the time warp anywhere, like at a wedding or at a party, everyone knows how to do it. And they tell you how to do it in the song if you don't know how to
That's
do
right.
it. And
That's
so
right.
I just, looking at young Susan Sarandon, young Tim Curry, it's just, it makes me smile.
Yeah. It took me a long, long time to watch this because I was always a bit frightened of Tim Curry. He's got that face that's very...
Well, he was the clown in it and on the TV show.
He was. And he was also, I think, the Tom Cruise movie Legend. He was like the devil with the big horns.
Yes.
Frightening as anything. And it's just something about his face, but especially in the Frankenfurter like makeup that he's he's got like almost like the very curly hair but I remember watching it the first time and I thought again, same as you, it's a very strange, funny, sexy kind of weird movie, but it's got great songs in it. And it's just one of those movies that I remember watching it the first time when I finished and I thought, what the hell was that? I really need to watch it again. And I had to watch it again just to see what I'd seen. Have you ever seen it live?
I've never seen it live. I would love to. I've just never been in a situation where I've had the opportunity.
Because that's a real interactive experience, apparently. Neil, apparently, he was telling us when he went and saw it that he was watching it. He didn't get dressed up or anything. He said, but I think if I remember it correctly, he said all of a sudden a woman just put her boobs on the back of his head and just rested the boobs on his head while he was watching it. Because they were all like a lot of women and men were dressed in masks and all sexy underwear and stuff. Yeah, and she just came and just rested her boobs on his head, which, he didn't have to pay any extra for that. That was all part of the ticket price.
That's excellent. He was the chosen one right there.
He absolutely was the chosen one. I mean, I wouldn't bother watching what was on the stage. I would have turned around and been...
There you go.
There you go. But that was very close to being in my top 10, but it didn't quite make it. But good one to pick to start us off with. My number 10 is, now the one thing about the 70s is, especially as things like Mel Brooks was at the top of his game in the 70s.
Oh yeah.
And his hit rate in the 70s was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Not just in how many movies he got out, but the quality of the movies that he took out. So my number 10 is Silent Movie from 1976. Now, I've mentioned this before, and I will talk about it a little bit again in a little while, but in the UK, they had a Mel Brooks season. Like every Sunday evening. This is when I don't know how old I was. I must have been, I don't know, maybe 15, 16, something like that. And so as a family, we all watched these movies every Sunday.
Oh, really?
And Silent Movie came on, and I'm a massive Dom DeLuise fan. I love Dom DeLuise.
Oh, he's great.
And I love Burt Reynolds, and I love all those kind of guys. And there was a moment in Silent Movie where I think he was like Spanish dancing on the top of this table, and slowly the table started lowering. And I couldn't talk. I was laughing so much that I can feel my neck was going to explode because I couldn't, the laughter couldn't come out fast enough.
Oh, that's awesome.
And since that time, like Silent Movie was it's a great movie because it is a silent movie. It's basically Mel Brooks trying to get a load of stars to appear in his silent movie.
Right.
And there's only one word spoken in the whole movie. And it's Marcel Marceau, who's the famous mime artist.
Right.
Where Mel Brooks phones him up, and then with a caption it says, "Will you be in our movie?" And he goes, "No." And then that's the only so the irony of that. It's a great movie. It's star-studded, but so fun.
See, and when I was going through everything, I came across that one. I'm like, I've never seen that movie. And, I can't find it streaming anywhere.
Really?
Because I wanted to sit down and watch it and go, oh, maybe this will be my top 10 because, it's Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
And I could not find it to watch. I was so disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, there's a great scene with Burt Reynolds. He's in his shower. And he's just soaping himself up, and all of a sudden another hand appears, and then another hand appears while he's washing himself. And I think it was Marty Feldman as well. So it was Marty Feldman, Dom DeLuise, and Mel Brooks going around to all these famous people trying to get them to be in the movie. And all of a sudden they're all there, like soaping him down as well. It's just, it is such a good, like Mel Brooks again at the top of his form. there was no one better to do comedy movies than Mel Brooks, as you will see with my top 10.
Oh, of course, of course.
But that was, so that's Silent Movie from 1976 is my number 10. So your number 9 then, please, Crystal.
My number 9, speaking of Burt Reynolds, is Smokey and the Bandit from 1977.
That's my number 8. It had to be in there. Had to be in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think starting towards the end of the 70s, you started seeing the end of this like cynical kind of MASH kind of humor, and then you started getting into just the silly escapist, the Smokey and the Bandit type thing, where it's just it's chase scenes and one-liners, and like the whole movie is about bootlegging beer across the United States, which is not even a thing anymore.
No.
But at the time, it was just hilarious. And, when it came out, my dad was a big Coors beer drinker because we lived in California. And I just thought that was the first thing out of my mouth. I'm like, why can't they drink the beer they want to drink? And my dad's trying to explain it to me. But it's just, Sally Field is just a doll.
Yeah.
And it's just this freewheeling, freaking Jackie Gleason, some bitch.
He is just so good.
Oh my God. In the hands of a lesser man, that part would have just seemed ridiculous. But with him, it was just like, it was perfect, pitch perfect.
That's right. And Burt Reynolds was a classic movie star.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think with someone like Burt Reynolds, like the older they get, and then they start, that he always looked like he was really struggling in his last couple of movies because he was obviously been ill and stuff. But as a movie star, it's kind of, I suppose, George Clooney is the nearest thing to it these days. Like a
you had
like
your
that.
In his day it was Brad Pitt, George Clooney. These days you don't really have that like one guy is the guy anymore. You have like you've got Timothy Chalamet, and you've got this guy and that guy, but none of them are similar. And
they're great actors.
Yeah,
but I think I would say Harrison Ford's another one. I don't think Harrison Ford's a particularly great actor, but he's an amazing movie star. He's somebody that
I'll
when
watch
you see
him in anything.
Exactly, and Burt Reynolds was exactly the same for me.
Yeah.
It didn't matter whether it was a comedy or whether it was a serious movie or it was just something that he was just one of those guys that you could just watch. Cannonball Run, which obviously was in the 80s, but that movie again, him and Dom DeLuise in that, and Smokey and the Bandit 2, which Dom DeLuise was in, that was obviously not as good as this one, but was another great movie. Loads of fun.
Yeah, I mean, he just has that charm that it's like, he could say anything and you would buy into it just because he's letting you in on the joke.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one hell of a moustache as well.
No kidding.
Yeah. Oh, that was Sally Field I was talking about. I'm only joking. But like you say, Sally Field was an absolute like doll in those movies, and it's just great, absolutely great. That's a great one. So that's our first duplicate of the night. So that's good. Okay, my number 9. Arguably, some would probably say this should be higher. But I'm going for Monty Python and the Holy Grail from 1975.
There's our second duplicate because that's my number 3.
That's your number 3. Yeah, I do feel it should merit to be higher than just 9 for me. But again, I mean, Monty Python in the 70s and early 80s were a lot like Mel Brooks in the fact their hit rate for movies. I mean, they didn't make many movies, but every single one of them was great. And there's so many like quotable moments in anything that's Monty Python, but like the movies, especially like the Black Knight where he's having the fight with Arthur and he ends up with like both of his arms and legs. Tis but a scratch, and all of his arms and legs.
Only a flesh wound.
Exactly. Come back and I'll bite your legs off. I love that. But I'm a Monty Python fan, whereas my wife just doesn't understand why any of it is funny. She just does not get it. But I think that's what a lot of people like. It's like Barbra Streisand, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it skews towards guys. Monty Python, like the Shawshank Redemption, tends to be more of a guy thing than a girl thing. I don't know why, because I think they're hilarious. But yeah, it tends to be, I think, more of a guy humor situation.
It's strange though, isn't it? It's very. I mean, it's weird comedy. I'll grant you that, but it's very weird how the majority of people I know that like Monty Python are males. They just are. Whereas, like, I've spoken to my mum about Monty Python, or none of my daughters even understand, what's going on. They don't understand what is funny about spam, or that whole any of that kind of stuff. They just don't get it. So
I wonder if it comes from growing up. There seems to be this guy thing of trying to crack each other up, where
Possibly.
that's not as much of a thing for girls. So I think Monty Python is kind of them just trying to crack each other up and trying to crack you up, and it doesn't matter how absurd it is. It just doesn't make you laugh.
This is the thing. There's comedies on like UK TV that I just find are so bland and boring, and I don't find them funny at all. Yet my wife will be, excuse the phrase, but pissing her pants because she'll find it so funny. Sometimes she'll find it funny because I don't find it funny at all. So she's more laughing at me, just shaking my head. But I do say this is what you're like with not Fawlty Towers, with Monty Python. She goes, yeah, but I just don't understand. I said, yeah, I don't understand why you're laughing at this. Nothing is happening. Nothing is funny. Yeah. But again, it's like a lot of things, isn't it? Whether it's music or comedy, it's subjective, and it's the beauty of it that one person finds something hilarious that will make them piss their pants, and another person will shake their head and say, I've got no idea why you're laughing, which is great.
Exactly.
It's exactly what it should be like. Yeah. Okay, so that's my number 9, and also your number 3. So we've already got 2 on the board. Yeah. So that's good. Oof. Okay, then your number 8, then please.
Okay, I highly doubt this is going to be on your list, but growing up as a young girl in the 70s, I loved this movie, Freaky Friday.
It's not on my list, but it very nearly did. It very nearly did get on my list, I must admit. It was in my honorable mentions, that's for sure.
I mean, I look at it now. I mean, when I was growing up and I watched it, I just thought, it's so funny, with the washing machine overflowing and the turkey burning, and it's just funny, But I watch it now and I'm like, oh my God, what good actresses these two are. I mean, Barbara Harris just embodies a 13-year-old girl. I mean, she just does. And Jodie Foster is Jodie Foster and whatever she does. And with the voiceover at the beginning, and she's just explaining her life, and she's just so matter of fact, and she already sounds 40 years old.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's just, and it's sweet, when she listens as the mother, she listens to her little brother talking about how he idolizes her, and it softens her, but not too much, and so it's just, and it's slapstick comedy. I mean, you've got them, fooling around on water skis and driving a VW Bug through Southern California, and it's just fun.
What did you think of the remake that they did with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan?
I did not love it. I liked Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I didn't feel like it had the heart of the first one.
I completely agree. And again, I don't know whether that might be just an age thing, that you're a little bit older and you're looking at it. You're not looking at it, because I think when I watched it the first time, you're looking at it from the kid's point of view,
right?
And then the older you get, you're actually looking at it from the adult's point of view.
Yeah.
And they're also doing they've I think the sequel's coming out this year, isn't it? I think they're doing
is it really?
A sequel where it's Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan again.
Oh goodness. Okay.
So, who knows what that? I mean, that could have January all over it, couldn't it?
That's going to be a January movie.
That's going to be. If I look online now and find out that it's coming out next January, that would just do it for me. I think. Absolutely, that'd be perfect. I kind of hope it's coming out in January now. Okay, so that's your number 8. My number 8 was Smokey and the Bandit from 1977. So we're back to you, Crystal, with your number 7.
Hey, this one is another one that we might duplicate. It's Life of Brian. Monty
That's my
Python's.
number three. That's my number
Okay.
three. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's brilliant. I mean, I don't get a lot of laugh out loud moments in it, but I just think it's so brilliant in its commentary. It was like I was watching it, and I stopped it and I made my husband watch it. I'm like, and that's where we get all the different denominations from. And then of course it ends with always look on the bright side of life.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone knows that whistle.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it.
Indeed.
It's just fantastic.
It's another one of those that Python do so well. It's another one of those like you know every quote from it. There are so many. I mean, Biggus Dickus was one of those things.
Yeah.
What year did it come out? 79. So I would have been 10. I probably would have seen it because my dad, I think, brought it. So we watched it. I was probably 13 or whatever when I watched it. And just something like that for me is enough to make me laugh. Something like Biggus Dickus or anything like that. But it was just so many, and it was also very clever when you look at it more with an adult look. It's very, very clever because it's basically, I mean, it got into a lot of trouble when it came out, obviously through all the different, the religious people were slamming it and saying how it was being disrespectful and blasphemous, and but that's just them, getting their ass in their hands when it was just a story about a guy called Brian. It wasn't. Yeah. They weren't saying he was anybody else, That's
no,
the
he was actively saying, "I'm not Jesus."
No, he's not. He's just a very naughty boy. And again, you had nudity in it as well. So for as a pubescent boy, you're sort of thinking, "Oh, look, there's a bit of."
And there was nudity in there for the girls too.
Indeed.
It's like full frontal right there.
Indeed. But I mean, and you can just mask it up by saying, "I'm just watching a comedy." That's all it is. It's just a comedy. Here's my hands. I'm not doing anything. You got to be very careful sometimes. But it has to be in the top 10. It just depends on where in the top 10. So, but yeah, you can't. I don't think you can go wrong with Life of Brian. I must admit, sometimes I put it on like late on a channel in the UK, and if it's normally on wherever it's on, I'll stop and watch the rest of it. Even with like real weird bits with the flying saucer, the UFO that's in there, and the aliens halfway through it. What the hell is all that all about? But yeah, so good, so good. So that is our third duplicate already.
Wow.
So hopefully, in your case, we won't have any the same for the rest of them.
Or in your case, we'll have two more.
We might have two more. Okay, now my number 7. I don't know whether you've heard of this one. This was another Burt Reynolds movie with Dom DeLuise and Sally Field called The End.
I saw it back in the day. I remember very little about it.
So 1978. Now, when I was saying earlier on, when they had the Mel Brooks films on, it was actually, they did silent movie, and then the following week, it might have been a Dom DeLuise or it could have been Burt Reynolds. Anyway, the following week, they had The End on, and I'd never seen it before, and I can remember it as if I'm sat in my living room now, with my mum there and my dad next to her, and I'm sat on the floor, and basically the story is that, and spoilers for a movie that's 40 years old, 50 years old, Burt Reynolds has got a toxic blood disease, so he's going to die, and he tries to commit suicide because he doesn't want to go through being just stuffed with tubes, and so he tries to commit suicide by taking a crap ton of pills and some vodka, and he wakes up in a mental asylum, and it's I think Burt Reynolds directed it actually, and he wakes up with a start and points, sort of faces the camera, going, "Goddamn son of a bitch," and that's like a big hard cut straight to his face. And Dom DeLuise is sat next to him with a piece of paper and a pen, saying, "That's very interesting. 57% of all people who've tried to commit suicide wake up, startled." And he's talking to him for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then you find out that Dom DeLuise is actually a member of he's one of the patients in the mental institution.
I remember that part.
And I'm telling you, there's that scene. I will put it if I can find it on YouTube, I will put that scene on the video playlist, because I'm 55 years old and I have never laughed as hard as this moment, this interaction between Dom DeLuise and Burt Reynolds. Dom DeLuise is just, I can't explain it because it doesn't do it any justice.
Right, because you have to see him do it because he's Dom DeLuise.
But I nearly passed out because I couldn't breathe. And my mum, I'm sure my mum was really worried that I was like, I was just going to hyperventilate because I could not. And I actually bought it on Apple Movies or whatever they call it, because I had to just watch that scene again. I just had to do it. And it's a great movie.
Great.
It's not one of the best movies. It's not one of the greatest Burt Reynolds movies, but there are so many moments in it, and it's got a nice heart to it as well. But yeah, when we decided we were going to do this, I thought I have to put it. It's not a movie that a lot of people know, but for me, my own personal thing, it had to go in my top 10. So
and it's not the greatest movies of the 70s. It's the top comedies. It's what made you laugh.
Exactly, and it's made me laugh more in that one scene than a lot of movies. All Adam Sandler movies together, I haven't laughed as much as I did in that one scene in The End, which was in 1978.
Oh, I love those memories.
That's that one. Okay, your number 6 then, please.
Talking about a movie with heart, The Muppet Movie.
Yeah, this was number 11 on my.
Was it really?
It was, yeah.
So almost there.
Almost there.
And I saw it when I was a kid. It came out when I was 6 years old. So I was, part of the target audience for that. And it's just, there's so much and this is true of, most of the Muppet stuff. There's stuff for the adults to watch and find funny. There's stuff for the kids to find funny. And, it's just such a great message of, follow your dream and, try. And just keep going, and and it's just so funny. Animal is my favorite ever. Eat no animal, beat drums, not eat drums, beat drums.
Oh, it's so good. The thing is, it's got Rainbow Connection right at the start, which doesn't make me laugh. It makes me cry. That was in my top 10 songs that make you cry. It's just a beautiful song. But the Muppet, it was a great movie from start to finish. Not just funny, but like really, really fun movie. And loads of Steve Martin, I think, was in it.
Yeah, he was the waiter.
That's right.
He was the very sarcastic waiter.
That's right. Yeah, I think Orson Welles, was in it.
Yeah, Orson Welles was in it. Cloris Leachman,
that's right.
Bob Hope,
was
in it. So many people.
So good, such a good movie. Yeah, that was if it had been the top 11, it would have been there.
That was another one. Dom DeLuise was in it.
Dom DeLuise was in it, absolutely.
Yeah.
This could almost be a Dom DeLuise top 10 for me.
You could very easily do a Dom DeLuise top 10 movies.
We'll have to do that. Yeah, because there was another movie of his called Fatso, it was called.
Yes.
Not a very, where he just, I remember he had to go out and pick up a takeaway for the family, and by the time he got it home, he'd ate it all. It's, again, it's not a great movie, but it's got a movie with a lot of heart in it, and it's heartbreaking in some bits. But, okay, that was your number 6. My number 6. Now, this is a movie I would put all the money that I have, which isn't very much, on the fact that you have never seen this movie. This is from 1974. This is part of the Carry On series, which is a series from the UK. It's called Carry On Dick. Is the
I will tell. I have never seen it, never heard of it.
Right. So the Carry On movies are basically British movies since the 50s. They went from the 50s up to, they made about 20 odd movies in this series, and they would do modern day movies for the time, or they would do historical movies about Henry VIII or the French Revolution, but they would always be very slapstick, sometimes very un-PC comedies. But they were like, they're what are called in this country as seaside postcard movies. So it was RC side, you'd get postcards where there'd be cartoons, but it would have big buxom women, and then like little blokes that were just like leering at the women, and it's
kind
that
of a Benny Hill sort of a thing.
Exactly that kind of humor. Exactly. Okay. And Carry On Dick was from 1974, so they were kind of getting away from their peak, if you like. But this was all about the highwayman Dick Turpin. So that's what the premise of the story is. But it's basically ways they can do as many jokes with the word dick.
Right.
And in this one, his name is Big Dick because of the size of his weapon. So it's all double entendres, and double meanings on everything. Very sexualized, but not. It was always. It was never really, really bad. As in it wasn't 18 certificate. It was very
like body.
Yeah. But it was, for me, and I've said this a million times on the podcast, I listen to a Carry On film every night when I'm going to sleep. I put my headphones on, and that's what I go to sleep to, is these kind of movies. And Carry On Dick, although, again, it's going into the point where the quality wasn't as good, this was the last real sort of Carry On film with all of the great actors and actresses that made Carry On great.
Got
it. I really don't know whether it would translate, because you guys and Americans seem to love Benny Hill and they love that kind of comedy. I just wonder whether it would translate. It'd be really interesting to see whether that kind of comedy would translate over to you.
Yeah, it would really depend on how much of it is very specifically British versus how much is just the leering and jest and stuff that translates.
Yeah, I think the historical ones would translate, because there isn't the Carry On Henry, which is the Henry VIII one.
Yeah, we can figure that one
out. Yeah, that one. I mean, everybody knows that Henry VIII had 6 wives. So what they've done is gone, right, he had 6 wives, so he's obviously very horny. So basically, when he doesn't want another wife, he cuts her head off, and then he goes and finds another wife. And that's basically what it is. But comparing it to Benny Hill is right. It's that kind of humor. Sometimes it's speeded up a little bit, but it's I love them. So I had to have a Carry On film.
Oh, that's great.
And there you go. That's my number 6. So we are halfway. Time for this.
Quiz hot shot.
Pop quiz hot shot. Okay, right. I'm going to give you the tagline to the poster that's on a poster of a comedy movie from the 70s. You need to tell me what the movie is.
Okay.
We've got 10 of these. Let's see how you go. So here we go. Number 1. He was a poor black sharecropper's son who never dreamed he was adopted.
The Jerk.
All right.
Well done. 1 out of 1. Number 2. All it takes is a little confidence.
Oh, The Sting.
All right.
Well done. 2 for 2. Number 3. As P.T. Barnum put it, there's a sucker born every minute.
Ooh. I could say something that's absolutely not right, but it would be funny, is everything you wanted to know about sex but were afraid to ask.
It's not. It's Paper Moon, actually.
Oh, okay.
The Ryan and Tatum O'Neill movie. Okay, number 4. Sets the cinema back 900 years.
Was it 1 million BC?
No, it's Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Crap!
I mean, 1 million years BC is not much of a comedy, is it?
No, but I didn't know that was the tagline for Holy Grail.
There you go. Man. There you go. Number 5. It was the Deltas against the rules. The rules lost.
Animal House.
Is correct.
All right.
Number 6. Give yourself over to absolute pleasure.
Sounds like Barbarella, but it's the wrong decade. I got nothing.
Well, I'll put it this way. One of us has actually had this in our top 10 already.
Okay, just tell me.
No, it's the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, shoot.
There you go. Number 7. By train, by plane, by the seat of your... Oh, I've put by the seat of your seat. That's not right. By the seat of your... I don't know what that was. By train, by plane, by the seat of your something. It is. I'm not sure what it is. Damn predictive text is what it is.
I got nothing.
No, it was Silver Streak.
Okay.
I'm going to have to try and find that because it wasn't Seat of Your Pants. Anyway, okay. Number 8, a screwball comedy. Remember them?
Foul Play?
What's Up, Doc?
That one. I am not doing as well as I thought I would.
No. Number 9, daughter and mother become each other.
Freaky Friday.
Yes.
All right, all right, all right.
And finally, number 10, don't go straight to see this movie.
Blazing Saddles?
I tell you, you start counting to 5 like a sucker.
No, it was Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke.
Oh, man. Okay.
That's not bad. 4 out of 10. That's not bad. You had a good start.
That's not a passing grade.
But some of them were a bit. They were tough. I must admit, they were
you
tough.
Would think I would have known Monty Python, but I did not know that was tagline.
Never mind. Right, back to the job in hand. Your number 5, then, please, Crystal.
My number 5 is, if you've ever gone to summer camp, Meatballs.
Oh, Meatballs.
I love me some Bill Murray. He's a weirdo in real life.
Absolutely.
But he had such a heyday in that late 70s, early 80s era. And I mean, just the one-offs that he just comes up with. And, this whole, again, it's just fun. It's this, sexed up camp counselors and, playing pranks and, the head of the camp on a cot in the middle of the lake. And it's just funny. It's just pranks and
I haven't seen that movie for a long, long time. I need to rewatch it because I get it mixed up with Stripes for some reason. I don't know why.
I will tell you, Stripes, between the two, Stripes is the superior movie.
Right.
But Meatballs is just fun if you want to just have something mindless on. It's great fun.
Who else is in Meatballs? Let me have a look on IMDb because
I'm trying to think if there's any other real names in the movie. There's a lot of people I think that didn't go very much past Meatballs.
Oh, right. Harvey Aitken, Kate Lynch. I don't recognize them. Christine Debell, which no, there isn't really anybody there that I recognize, to be fair.
Yeah, it was kind of a one-off for a lot of people. It was like Bill Murray's movie.
And directed by Ivan Reitman. So he obviously did Ghostbusters and all that stuff. Yeah, I need to watch it. I need to revisit that one and watch that one again. I must admit.
If you like Bill Murray, it's just him at his best. It was like the next step after Caddyshack, and it was his movie, and he was just Bill Murray.
Right. There's nobody like Bill Murray, is there? He's an absolute one-off without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. Okay. My number 5. Again, this would probably be higher in other people's top 10s, but I'm going for 1974 again, and Young Frankenstein. Another Mel Brooks.
That one is my number 4 as well.
That's your number 4. Yeah.
That's my number 4.
That's your number 4. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I love Gene Wilder. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. Terry Garr as well was just gorgeous in it.
And then you've got Madeline Kahn,
Leachman as well. I mean, it's just Peter. What was his name?
I keep going to say Sellers. It's not Sellers.
It's not Peter Sellers. I'm terrible with names. It really bugs me because he was also in the Santa Claus, wasn't he? He was the boss in the Santa Claus.
Yes.
Right, let me get it. Otherwise, it's going to bug me for the rest of the day. His name was Peter Boyle.
That's it.
Peter Boyle, and of course, it was also Gene Hackman had a like a cameo bit in there as well. But putting on the Ritz, that whole bit, Marty Feldman as Igor or Igor or whatever. It's just classic stuff. It just is. Yeah. It's just again, it's Mel Brooks at the absolute top of his game. Gene Wilder. I mean, like I said, I love him in pretty much every single thing he's done. Gene Wilder, he's just an absolute genius as a comedic actor.
He's always, I think with Gene Wilder, he's, no matter what he does, he's always got this little kind of disappointment in you. It's like, like when he's talking to you, he's just a tiny bit disappointed in you.
And he's got that, he's got that face that he was a great leading man, but you wouldn't say that he was classically good looking.
No.
Do you know what I mean? But he was like, he always got the woman. He's always like had the woman in all the movies that he got and stuff. He was always the leading man in that sense. But yeah, him and Richard Pryor together, and
oh my God,
the stuff
hilarious.
that he did, the stuff that he did with Mel Brooks was just top notch stuff.
Oh yeah, there's nothing like it. No, and he knew how to deliver a line just perfectly, like a nut, especially in Young Frankenstein, straight enough that you got it, but just hilarious.
Yeah. Frankenstein.
Right,
so that's my number 5, and that's your number 4.
That's my number 4.
Your number 4. So my number 4. Now I could have chosen one of probably 2 or 3 of these. This was 1975, and The Return of the Pink Panther. Now I could have chosen any of the Pink Panther movies.
Right.
Peter Sellers again for me as Inspector Clouseau, one of the greatest comedy characters ever created, and this is the one with the big Pink Panther diamond, and Christopher Plummer was also in it as well. And it was just one of those movies. Well, like I say, it doesn't matter which Pink Panther movie it is for me. It's all about Inspector Clouseau and Peter Sellers. So I had to get one of them in there. So it really was basically me closing my eyes and pointing to and seeing which one it was. It could have been, I think it was The Return of Pink Panther Strikes Again, which was the one, which was what was that? That was 1976, the biggest comedy movie of that particular year. But I'm going to go for The Return of the Pink Panther, and it's just because, he was an absolute comic genius.
Well, yeah, I mean, take him out and the movies aren't much.
No.
He is the movies.
And it also, as much as I think that Steve Martin is a comedy genius as well, it shows you how much of a genius Peter Sellers was, because when Steve Martin became Inspector Clouseau in those terrible Pink Panther movies, it just was not the same.
No.
It was not the same. And I love Steve Martin. He's a hero to me, but why would you do that? And not just do it once, but do a sequel to it as well. I just couldn't work that out.
There's no call for it. No call for it. Leave perfection alone.
Absolutely. It's a very January thing to do, to make a remake of Pink Panther. That's for sure.
Yes.
Very good. Anyway, so that was my number 4. So your number 3 was Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Right.
My number 3 was Monty Python's Life of Brian. So what is your number 2, Crystal?
Animal House.
Oh, is it? Oh, that is interesting. Okay.
I love that movie. I tried to show it. I did show it to my stepson when he was in college. He did not get it. He was like, "Why is this funny?" I'm like, "How is it not funny? Are you on double secret probation?" I mean, everything about it is hilarious. And Belushi's giving a speech about the Germans, and you're like, "What? Just let him go. Just let him go."
Yeah.
Everything.
This was one of those movies on the same kind of, on the par of like Porky's. I don't think it wasn't as lewd or as sexual as Porky's. That's definitely for sure.
Right.
But I can remember as a kid, it was like, you know, Animal House, Porky's, other video nasties, as they were called in this country, that if you managed to see. But I remember watching it the first time, and I was a little bit disappointed because I was expecting it to be, I was expecting it to be like Porky's. I thought it was going to be like this real sort of sex comedy kind of thing, and but it wasn't like that. It was a lot more cleverer than that.
Yeah.
And the whole National Lampoon sort of side of it. But John Belushi just, you know, what's this? And he says it and all that kind of, and toga, yeah, food fight and all that kind of stuff. It was just great. And so I think once I realized it wasn't that and watched it again, you realize that it was just a great, well-written comedy that, it had a few bawdy moments in it, didn't it? Obviously, but it was, it didn't make my top 10. So just to let you know, it's not my number one. It just didn't make my top 10. But I
can guess what your number one is, but it's one of those movies. I saw it when I was a kid, and I liked all, like the John Belushi stuff, and then I would, watch it over and over again, and it got funnier and funnier the older I got.
Yeah. Again, it's another movie I need to really like rewatch again, I think, and just it's been a while since I've seen it, so I need to watch that one again without a doubt. That's a good one. My number two. So. See, I thought we might have had the same 1 and 2, but we obviously haven't now. So, my number 2, 1979, The Jerk, Steve Martin. That's my number 2. I don't think it was a great way for him to start his like cinematic career, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot in it that's very un-PC now.
Yeah,
the use of the N-word and all of that kind of stuff. But there are also a bits in it that are just like the most funny comedy that you will ever see, and Steve Martin is just great. It is just one of the I mean, I loved his early, like Man with Two Brains, All of Me with Lily Tomlin's just
God, that was amazing.
Such a great, and I'm amazed that again they remake the Pink Panther, but I would have thought something like All of Me is a great one to remake for the modern day. I think but they don't bother with that sort of thing. But yeah, his early stuff. I mean, Man with Two Brains. Again, we're not talking about 80s comedy now, but that's just great. But The Jerk is totally ridiculous, totally stupid. The fact that he finds out at the start that, I'm going to stay this color. He's a white man or a white kid in a black family, and he thinks that all of a sudden he's going to turn black.
Right.
He's got no rhythm whatsoever. His mum's there trying to show him what the rhythm is, and he keeps clicking he's got no rhythm. It's just so good. It's such a great film.
Yeah, it was definitely a star vehicle for him.
Oh, without a doubt. And it was 100 million worldwide in 1979. So.
That's a lot.
It is. Okay, before we reveal our number ones, would you like to just run through your 10 to 2? And then I'll do the same, and then we'll reveal our number ones.
Okay. Number 10 is Rocky Horror Picture Show. 9 is Smokey and the Bandit. 8 is Freaky Friday. 7 is Life of Brian. 6 is The Muppet Movie. 5 is Meatballs. 4, Young Frankenstein. 3, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And 2 is Animal House.
Lovely. And mine is number 10, Silent Movie. 9, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. 8, Smokey and the Bandit. 7, The End. 6, Carry On Dick. 5, Young Frankenstein. 4, The Return of the Pink Panther. 3, Monty Python's Life of Brian. 2, The Jerk. So, Crystal, what is your number 1 comedy movie of the 70s?
Okay, this is going to be a surprise to you because I think I know what you expect me to say.
I'm expecting you to say it, and I'll be amazed if it isn't it.
You're going to be amazed because this is a comedy, and I will fight anyone who says it's not. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Wow. Okay, that is. Well, I mean, that's a surprise. I mean, it's also. If it's in your top 10, I feel it should be in my top 10 because it's one of my favorite films of all time. So
I mean, it goes back to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's weird and absurd, but so much of it is funny. I mean, come on,
Oh,
you've got Gene Wilder with the somersault, and just the one-offs. I mean, it's funny. I mean, you can't look at the Oompa Loompas and not laugh. I'm sorry, it's just not possible. Um, and it's just, you remember it.
yeah.
It's that one of those movies that you watch it and it sticks with you. And every so often, the Oompa Loompa song comes into my head, and for whatever reason, and it's just, and again, it's got heart,
Mm,
at the end. And I love it so much. I know you do too.
I
So
do.
it had to be number one for me.
Yeah, I mean, as I do all the time, whenever I'm compiling my top 10, I always look on IMDb, and I always look on uh, like Google, just have a look at what like the 100 best comedy movies are or whatever. And it was on a couple of lists, and I was thinking, I don't know what I class that as a comedy, because obviously it's a musical. And I thought, well, it's got to be, because what else would it be? It's not.
It's not a drama.
It's not a drama or anything like that. And I contemplated putting it in my top 10, and I thought, the trouble is, it'd have to be high in my top 10, but what ones do I take out? And I didn't put it in there. But now that you've got it in there as your number one, I kind of feel it should be in my top 10. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It should be there. But then I'm looking at my top 10. I think there isn't anything that I'd want to drop out of my top 10. That's the trouble.
Well,
But
then
that is
if that's the case, then it doesn't belong in your top 10.
possibly. I mean, it was in my top 10. I think it was in my top 10 musicals. So
Yeah.
it's been in there before. So that's great. It's nice that you've got it in there. Put it that way. It's nice that you've been able to talk about it and got it in there. I'm amazed though that my excuse me, my number one isn't even in your top 10. Do you know what my number one is? What do you think it is?
Blazing Saddles.
It absolutely is. Blazing Saddles, 1974. So for me, you've got Young Frankenstein, Carry On Dick, and Blazing Saddles all coming out in 1974. What a year. And I was 5 at the time, so I'd never have even known that these movies were coming out. But again, you look at my top 10, where if you look at Gene Wilder, you look at Mel Brooks, it's just a perfect movie for me. Yes, take out the fact that it's got a lot of N-words in there. My wife watched it and she was like shocked. She was sat there watching it with her mouth open going, I can't watch any more of this. I said, yeah, but look at it in the context of its time. It's all done through comedy. It's not, it's not like it's the whole point of the story.
Right.
That he's a black sheriff going into a racist town and trying to win them over. But it's got ridiculous comedy as well. Mel Brooks as the governor or whatever it is just hilarious. And Harvey Korman, he's the one for me. I find him hilarious. And I'm constantly watching clips of like the Carol Burnett show on YouTube, where he just like breaks down and laughs all the time, especially with Tim
Conway.
Tim Conway. It's just hilarious. The dentist scene that they did.
Oh
and
my
he's
God.
there and he's trying his hardest not to laugh. And it's just hilarious. It is, but I think he's great. And he was in the I've managed to get Star Wars into this episode. He was in the Star Wars. He was in the Star Wars Christmas special. I think he was in the Star Wars.
Was he really?
Special. I'm sure he was.
I've never seen the holiday special.
No, and please don't, because it is awful.
It will ruin it.
It is awful. But I'm sure that Harvey Korman was in it.
It would not surprise me.
Yeah. It's weird, really, really weird, and very, very bad. But that's we'll do a whole episode on that maybe.
And I respect the Blazing Saddles is sacred to so many people, and I respect it. And I agree with you looking at it through the lens of the 70s. My problem is I didn't see it in the 70s.
Right.
I actually only saw it for the one and only time about 10 years ago.
Right.
And so for me, it was a little too cringy.
Yeah.
The movies I saw at that time, I can look through that lens, but it was hard. I understood intellectually what they were doing and why it was funny, but I couldn't bring myself to embrace it like so many other people have.
And it is weird because there was a TV comedy show in the 70s in this country called Love Thy Neighbor, which is about as racist as you can get. It is my dad loves it. He still watches it. Not saying that my dad's a racist, but he still watches it and laughs his head off at it. And I watched it. Some of the episodes are on YouTube, and I watched about 5 minutes of it, and I was horrified, thinking that was on TV, that was classed as entertainment in the 70s in the UK. It is shocking, the things. It's about a black couple moving next to like a white couple, and they keep arguing with each other, and they keep and they're firing like obscenities at each other all the time. And it is, I watch it and I go, oh my god, that is, and it like you were saying, it sort of makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit, whereas I can watch Blazing Saddles and I just laugh. I find it so funny. So it's weird how you have that juxtaposition of like, it's just weird. It's just weird how some of it can affect you, some of it you just find really funny. It's just very strange.
Yeah, and I think again, if I'd seen it in the 70s when it originally came out, I would watch it again through that lens and remembering how. But having watched it for the first time in like 2015, I couldn't shake it. So I respect everyone who loves it, and I'm sure there are a lot of people yelling at me right now. I totally respect. Love Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
Think he's brilliant. And like things like the bean scene. I'm not into that bodily function humor. So
that was the first thing I can remember being told about, saying, "No, you've got to watch like the campfire scene."
Yeah.
And obviously you're like Bean that hates that kind of stuff. I love a good fart. Smell my fart with my grandchildren. If I get a chance to do that, I find it the funniest thing ever. If somebody drops one, then I'm laughing, for the rest of the day. But with that, see, now I thought that we were going to end up being stuck in the middle of you having 3 and me having 5. With that bombshell that you've got Willy Wonka at number 1, well done, you've won Lisa's challenge.
Yay!
Well done. Hang on, there's the applause. So well done. Well done with that. So I was just about to say, oh, well, we got 4. That's just in between it. But no. Well done, Crystal. You won it with 3. So that's very good for that. Let me just go through the honourable mentions. Carol Barwick said, she's asked, was one of my dinosaurs is missing a 70s film? I did check. And yes, it is. She said, my brother and I used to love it. At MPG_1980 said, in no particular order, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, Holy Grail, Life of Brian, Smokey and the Bandit, and The Muppet Movie. That's pretty much nearly all of your top 10 there.
It is.
Amanda Facer says, what's up, Doc? Barbara Streisand and Ryan O'Neill, such a lovely, funny one to watch. David Berger said, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. There are some who call me Tim. Blazing Saddles from Maria Pereira. Hello, Maria. Kelly Kessner said definitely The Jerk and Young Frankenstein. Tiffany Birchby McHugh said The Jerk. Jen Berg, I fart in your general direction. Your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries. I mean, there's really no contest here. She says Holy Grail should be numbers 10 through 1. Nikki Dennis, number 1, The Muppet Movie. It never gets old. And at Andy McEwen 1 on X said, Pink Panther Strikes Again is top tier 70s comedy. Slapshot, very underrated. Holy Grail, and of course, Blazing Saddles. So there we go. We go. I think now that's the 70s completely wrung dry. I don't think we've got anything of the 70s left to do now. I think we do.
It's time to move on from our past.
Oh God, let's not, please. Let's stay in the past.
Know, right?
Can we please at least maybe just stay 6 months away from what it was?
I will stay there with you. I will stay there in that little bubble with you.
Yeah,
yes.
Wouldn't that be nice? Just get a time machine and let's go to the 70s where everything was just a little bit simpler.
There you go.
Oh dear. So that's it. Crystal, thank you so much, and thank you for your support. Thank you for being a wonderful top head. We absolutely love you, and we really appreciate everything that you've done to support us. So thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing such joy to all of us top heads. We love you so much, and I was sad that I didn't get to come see you in California, but
next
one
time.
day.
Next time. Yeah, next time we'll do it. Wait till I win the lottery. I've decided when I win the lottery, what I'm going to do, if I've got millions in the bank, I am just going to go round and go to every top head's address and come and see them and just come and say hello. So if you get a knock on the door one day and you think, I'm not expecting anybody, shit, Babs won the lottery. It'll be me on your doorstep.
I would love that.
Wouldn't that be great? But yeah, for everybody else, don't forget to listen out for Neil's dulcet tones at the end of the podcast, where he's given all the details of all the different gubbins and everything. The links to all the bits and pieces, the Patreon, if you want to be a top head, just like Crystal. You could be sat right where Crystal is, not in her own house, in your own house, obviously, but be a guest on the podcast. Come and do your own episode. I'm sure, hopefully, Crystal will come and join us again in the future.
Definitely.
Personally, perfect. Yep. And you can come and buy us a coffee, as the wonderful Chris Arkle did, and all the other gubbins and links and bits and pieces of how to get the podcast is all on the show notes. So there you go. Once again, Crystal, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody else, for watching and listening. Now let's go start the countdown.